It is. It's being streamed at least.
Yeah, but it's not being recorded yet.
Here we go.
Where is it? Where it be?
Is somebody tapping on something?
Yeah, me. I've somehow lost my picture. Don't know why. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Well, just be careful. We can still see you.
Yeah, I know. That's the scary part. There were 2 more people here the last time I looked.
The Gillmors.
I think Michael's making old age jokes.
There were 2 more people. Oh,
Like, I don't know where I am or who I am or who I'm with.
Do you see me?
I see you.
yes, we see it.
Oh, I'm asking Tina.
Oh,
Yeah, no idea.
Okay, now,
Got it.
Steve Gillmor is the co-host now.
All right, we had.
all right, so let me, are you recording?
That I forgot. Yeah. Well, I think so.
I'm getting recording signal here.
It's
I don't
both
know.
streaming and recording according to the screen.
Yeah,
So-
but that's not what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Tina,
and I
do you see it?
got a message from you. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. we
Thank
should go. Okay. We did everything a little bit backwards, but that's okay.
All right,
All
so
right. So mute is off. And we're gonna go in. Oh, we're streaming to Twitter, Facebook. We're
just forget that.
okay.
Forget that.
Mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor. This is the Gillmor Gang. Welcome to from the state of Palo Alto. Is Keith's here?
Wonderful to be in the state of Palo Alto. It's stateless this morning.
Wow, that's a third of a lower third.
And more to the point, Manchester United just won 2-0 and have regained 3rd place in the Premier League.
woo!
Manchester Abbey. Is that like a sequel or a prequel?
There is a pretty impressive church in Manchester near the City Hall. It's actually very impressive and a wonderful tram system, by the way, in case you ever want to visit.
From London, England, is Frank Radis.
Hello, Steve, Tina, and gangsters. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm trying to give you as much time as I can for the lower third, speaking slowly and softly and blah, blah, blah.
What a professional.
What a deep voice.
I'm there for you, babe.
From the framework of Massachusetts is Dennis Pombriant.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I'd just like to say that we've got a big week going on here in Massachusetts. We have the Boston Marathon starting on Monday, which is the traditional celebration of Patriots Day, which is only celebrated here in Massachusetts, which is really too bad because every time the 15th of April is on a Friday, Monday is a holiday, and so we don't have to file our taxes until Tuesday. So we get to hang on to all that money for an extra 24 hours or 72 hours, whatever it is. And then, just to complete the news cycle, we've got, 10, 15 miles from here, they arrested a kid for giving away state secrets last week. So, it's a real happening thing here.
Yeah, That's some story. We should probably talk about that.
Yeah, when we
Oh,
do the show,
yeah.
which will be after the introductions.
In
Man,
California,
Did I make my
Welcome
third-
from the
my lower
state
third?
of Washington. I'm sorry to override you, but it's Michael Markman.
How do you do? I'm here with my lower third weather report. It is raining in the Seattle area today, so we're living up to our brand. It's not a very heavy rain, but it's the kind of rain we get. Just drizzle, 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 and gray.
It kind of like here in the UK, or as we say,
There's a lot of similarity in the climate here between Seattle and UK, but I think you're a little further north, and so you get it a little bit later.
So I'll interrupt again to complete the introductions with from the state of Atlanta. What is your name again? Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
Well, thank you. And I'll stay on brand and just say, hi.
Right. Well, you could just say nothing and that would be even worse, but
or better, depending on.
so,
I'll just not like this occasionally. Yeah.
and
Can I
that's
just
the most-
ask,
if you think about it, he is actually quite leery, and I am quite cheerful, and Markman does mark men. So,
Yes, go ahead, Dennis.
I was just going to ask Brent if that was a UPS delivery driver's hat.
No, it's actually a Rams hat.
It's a Rams hat. I've never seen that one before.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I try to find the most unique brand, Rams branded apparel, and yeah, this is one of them.
Oh,
they
you
do
look
deliver-
very
they do
UPS.
deliver footballs to the other team quite often.
Anyway, moving on.
So Frank, you wanted to continue interrupting?
Well, are we starting the show then?
Yeah.
So I just want to know, has anyone heard not how this guy had access to these documents, but why did he have access to these documents, and what's the difference between what's going on with him and the former guy?
He's a bit like, his job's a bit like my dad's. My dad worked in Secret Services, and he went to work every day to this place called Filingdale, which was this kind of early warning station and field operations center where they did Morse code and cryptography. And when you're sitting in the
Morse
middle,
code. What year was that?
this was when I was in school, so I was probably about 10, so it'd be about 1964.
Hmm.
And he, in order to do his job, he had to know stuff because he had to send it to other people. Yeah. So the man in the middle, which this young kid is, he's a techie, often knows a lot more than you would imagine because that's their job couldn't be done without it.
That
Do you
makes a
think
lot
he
of
knows
sense.
what mic he's talking into? Because I don't think you do. Keith.
You mean, oh, you know, my mic was pushed all the way away from me. That's why.
Better.
Much better. Go ahead.
That makes a lot of sense, but it still begs the question: why isn't he being looked at by a military court instead of a civilian court? I don't get that. There's so many weird things going on with this story, I think.
Yes, there are. You asked what's the difference between this guy and the former guy, now known as the defendant. I think there's one big similarity. They both were trying to show off with what they had. Look at me. I'm important. I've got this. It's not clear that this young man had any particular motive beyond that, but a lot remains to be told and discovered.
Well, part of it is just residue of the American system where the CIA is not allowed to practice anything on U.S. soil. And so FBI had to go get him. And that put him into the civilian justice system. Now, why the military didn't do that? maybe it has something to do with posse comitatus, which is something that goes back to the 19th century, post-Civil War.
What? Maybe it was the FDIC that really should have jurisdiction.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, they can really mess up your life.
But is the guy currently serving?
Yes,
He's a National Guardsman.
So could be
And
the
active,
police,
he's
couldn't it?
active. No, he's active. That's what I heard. That's the last thing I
Right.
heard. It just seemed to me that, and then this story just keeps getting odder and odder when the Republicans are out there supporting him. MTG is making a lot of noise for him. It's just wacky. That it seems to me like the Republicans are trying to set up a situation where what happens to the former guy is looked at less importantly because of this than if this hadn't happened.
That makes some sense.
Well,
I think it's a forced correlation. I think it's probably best to discuss them each in their independence, because there are some, of course, there are some abstract similarities, but the context is totally different for each. And I mean, this is a 21.
Well, we're all about forced correlations.
Yeah. And by the way, I
Let's do
agree
that.
with you, Keith, but I don't think that that's how the general public is going to look at it, nor do I think that's how the Republicans are going to play it.
I think there's a big difference between the way Republicans play things and the way the general public perceives them.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Republicans have an audience, a bubble, a minority. They are locked into them, and it's not always clear that the elected Republicans are in charge. I mean, just as with Fox News, the Republican Party is captive by the people they've attracted.
Yeah.
So to me, the least surprising thing is that a 21-year-old who has his own Discord server with access to secrets shared them. That's the least surprising thing. The most surprising thing is that he worked where he did, that he did it for as long as he did without anyone realizing he was doing it, which is testament to how encryption and distributed computing create safe places, if you will, for almost anything. And the other thing that's kind of surprising is that no one other than him is in the firing line. For him to do this as a 21-year-old, either he had full authority to see the stuff he had without any oversight, or somebody was giving oversight, yet he's the only one that's being accused of anything. So so you kind of just wonder what the real true story is, the whole story.
Well, I think this story is still very young, and we don't know that he's the only one who will be charged yet, do we?
Well, we know that no one else has been. That's all. You could be right. You could be right.
It's funny you make the comment about sort of the state of shared information. It made me think about the argument that I heard today on one of the Sunday shows about what's going on with TikTok, and a lot of people are out there saying this needs to be regulated. Not even talking about the China issue. It just seems like it's another nail in the coffin of regulation for the digital world.
Except all the trends. It's interesting. I track regulation a lot, Lena Khan in particular, and I mean it's an utter failure. There is no regulation, and nothing she's tried to do has been successful. It was funny this week. China regulated AI by saying that AI had to be pro-state. That was
That's a regulation.
and it, like, nobody's shocked because it's China. But if that happened here, we'd all be up in arms saying, how can they say it has to be pro-state? Yet regulation is often thought of as, people are too dangerous to allow them free will.
Oh, guns.
So free will, to me, free will is kind of interesting. Go ahead, Tina.
Speaking of regulation, in a way, A little ditty that went by me today was about Twitter sort of turning off more bots, and in doing that, kind of killing the good bots, the bots we need, like weather service and things like that. And I see this as like, okay, here's Twitter trying to regulate itself in a way, like make sure that we take the bot system out, and it's obvious throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And what's going to happen? Then we're going to have to like roll it back and then put the good bots back in, and then who decides what are the good bots and what are the bad bots? And then we're kind of back to where we were before.
Yeah, that's what Twitter's been doing all along, ever since Musk bought it.
Right. It's like, okay, we're going to do this. And then, oh, but wait a second. Now we have to do something else. And then we have to fix, and we have to, and in the meantime, it seems like, there gets to be a little bit of a bad rap, right? Like, do you guys really know what you're doing? Are you acting too fast? Are you not thinking about what's going on? And, and then having to, fix your own problems. It seems messy to me.
The only part of that I would disagree with is the little bit of a bad rap. I think it's more
maybe a very bad rap, right?
Well, I only disagree with the entire thesis, which is that somehow this is anything new. Twitter has been screwing around. Yeah, I'm doing just what I want to do. Twitter has been doing this dance since day one. This has got nothing to do with Musk.
The thing is, we use bots like IFTTT. When it sends something from somewhere to Twitter, that's a bot. And so bots are another word for automation. And automation is not always bad. It's very often good. The latest version is this thing called AutoGPT, which automates prompts to ChatGPT. So you give AutoGPT a goal, like, I want to go to Italy in June and stay in an Airbnb. And it basically gets into a dialogue with ChatGPT and automates the entire series of prompts that get you, in the end, an itinerary and possible places to stay and everything. So automation and bots are the same thing. Now, of course, bad actors can use bots and good actors can use bots. And it's almost impossible to distinguish between them based on being a bot. You can only distinguish them based on the content. And so it's super hard.
But maybe we should have a distinction on Twitter, like a very clear distinction. This is a bot, or this is an automated process, or whatever you want to call it, that maybe there's not a person behind it looking at, their screen all day long, but that, it's set up to pull information and spit it out. And that, in many cases, that's the way we actually want it. We want it going from that machine that knows that an earthquake is happening to the Twitter right away.
Actually, yeah.
I don't want it to be interpreted by a human being.
And then everything has to be interconnected. Otherwise, something like GPT would never work in a situation like that.
Well, its attribution is ultimately like when my IFTT posts something for That Was the Week to Twitter, it says this has been posted for That Was the Week. So it's attributed back to me. No, I put it in the text, right in the tweet. And Gillmor Gang is similar, by the way. The text says something like that. So it's easy for you to decide to attribute to yourself. Even with ChatGPT, you could tell it to attribute you every time it does something, and it would if you told it to. So attribution is probably a part of the solution there.
Yeah, but it's not something that then Twitter goes and does something with. They're not saying, okay, if you're a bot, you have to attribute it this way, or, it seems like it should almost be like different type of accounts or something that's very noticeable, and that we can make the distinction then, oh, this is a good bot, it's a bad bot, it's,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
an automated process, and
I guarantee every New York Times post on Twitter is a bot because they don't have a human being doing posts.
right, you're pushing, well,
Well,
right,
yes,
You're
no,
pushing
the-
links.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
ones that
you've
come
probably
from
got a
reporters, the
machine.
ones that come from reporters are very likely from the reporters
Sometimes, yeah.
because they engage in a way that you wouldn't expect a bot to.
I think that's because it's because they get mentioned and then they respond. But
Right.
they're probably not doing all their own posts. Like most
No.
celebrities.
I think it's a complex system where sometimes some of it is definitely automated, but they also are running their own accounts.
I find it like this is just anecdotal, but I find that the opinion writers tend to be the ones who do more engaging than the content writers, than the people who are actually reporting stories.
Well, that depends. The ones who report political stories come up a lot, like Maggie Haberman, for example.
Yeah.
But going back to Musk, I think if you look at what he did with spaceships, where he crashed them multiple times before he was able to land them, his whole way of working is learn from mistakes. I mean, that's just core to who he's very being. So he's not scared really of doing things wrong, and he doesn't mind being criticized. He sometimes is harsh back and everything, but his world is a world of making mistakes, getting criticized, figuring things out, moving to the next one. And today he's got this huge starship sitting on, about to take off. That's the result of I don't know how many years work for it to even work. So
let's say, but does that work for social media?
It can.
works for rocket.
Why not?
It's not involving me personally every day, but if I had and I used to have a little service bot thing that I did. If it was hitting my bottom line, or if it was doing something to my business because my good bot couldn't work all of a sudden, I don't know if that break it and then fix it attitude works. It seems cavalier,
Well, the only alternative method is being perfect every time, which no one is. I mean,
No,
I don't think it's binary.
Dennis just spoke and said something. What was it?
No.
Yeah, could you elaborate, please?
I think what we're talking about is brute force versus planning. And, you could, natural evolution is brute force. Things work or they die. If Elon is testing rockets that way, shame on him. There's a whole lot of simulation and math that can be done to cut down that learning curve, and I suspect that he avails himself of it pretty religiously. But if you look at some of the mistakes that he's made, or his company has made, SpaceX has made in its rocket launches, you'd have to say that it's run pretty free and loose. I mean, I remember one rocket failed because the payload wasn't strapped down inside of the container, which meant that the thing went up straight and that was fine. As soon as it started to curve, the payload shifted and the thing crashed into the ground. Now, yeah,
Mistake.
but I don't think that's a typical. You couldn't say that is Elon. I mean, that's his successes are way too many for that to be normal.
Well, it's Elon's culture.
Right.
We used to have a couple of metaphors.
Twitter is worth $22 billion.
I just don't know if it can be applied to social media.
Half as much as it was when he bought it.
I agree with that, Tina. We used to use these metaphors. It's not rocket science, or it's not brain surgery, but I think we should say it's not social media. Social media is in many ways harder than rockets. Rockets are physics and chemistry, and are pretty calculable. But social media is a collection of people. And
No.
predict how a
Social media
collection of
is
people
not
will
hard.
act is messier.
So we've
I
got,
could-
yeah, we're violating the social media block on this algorithm here.
Huh?
What?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not in favor of this show being pinned down by an emotional analysis of Elon Musk.
No, I agree. It's got to be objective. I agree.
So
I just think
I
that-
didn't
I
see
just
any
think that
emotion here.
there are many other outlets that are covering this story, and I just personally find this to be not additive and somewhat dilutive.
So one of our viewers, Jim Armstrong, has said that he believes that the trial will be held by a military court. That is that 21-year-old guy who absconded and then broadcast the documents, and that Jim Armstrong, was a young person in the Navy who handled, I think he said he was 21 at the time, who handled a lot of confidential documents. So, it's what you said, Keith. It's probably not as unusual as one might think it is. And honestly, I was just trying to stir the conversation, but I doubt very seriously that he's going to get thrown away for life.
So the
MTG
most
is going to get some jail time out of this.
Boy,
who
that
is
would-
going to do, Steve? Who do you
How,
think?
how will that work, Steve?
Some congressman has already made some attack on her for talking about supporting this guy as being a security violation that could warrant jail time.
By the way, and yeah,
The
that
actual content of what was in the stuff, I've only got a cursory headline based kind of view of it, but it seems like some pretty amazing things that we wouldn't have expected were in these documents to do with how the US handles its foreign diplomacy and such.
Hey, did anybody see where I don't know if this is true or not, but I think I saw some article where it said that this dude, this 21-year-old, signed up on a site, something to the effect of hire a hitman or something like that, and that it wasn't really a real site, but he thought it was, and it was like a site that was marketed as a marketplace for hitmen to find contracts to kill people. And he was on it, and he took it seriously and like provided a whole bunch of his information, and literally thought he had got a contract. And apparently it was like a sting operation. Nobody else heard this?
we have to watch Tucker Carlson for that one.
Well, any one of us that has a 21-year-old, I can tell you my 21-year-old, I have a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old, so let's call it a hybrid. They still are young enough to have all kinds of weird ideas going on in their heads that, this is not kind of an adult brain yet that's fully formed, that understands the world in a true context.
They don't even know what a fax machine is, for God's sakes.
I'm going to drop this link in because I actually saw it on NBCnews.com.
Okay, then it's true.
I'm sending this. I'll put this in the chat for everybody because I thought it was hilarious. But it also goes to, if this is true, you had your girl Marge out there, just by reflex, going after Biden and saying he was the real criminal.
Oh my!
And actually backing this kid. Now, what's she going to say if this is all true?
She's
He's
got this.
also been they've uncovered some anti-Semitic, anti-Black rants that this kid recorded and posted. So Now MTG is associated with that as well.
Yeah, you know, the other thing I read a very interesting thing today. She had a $65,000 fence built around her personal home at her house in Georgia that her company, the construction company that she owns, that her father left for her, built, and it's about $25,000 or $30,000 more than a fence like that should have cost, A, and B, $10,000 more than the annual income of the regular people who live in her district.
Well, maybe the guy that gave Clarence Thomas's mother the house, maybe he was helping him out too.
But then Clarence, didn't he sell 3 pieces of property to the guy that took him on all the trips?
Yeah,
Yeah,
buddy.
that's-
So how many of you guys
You know,
think this is, if you were to compare this to the Florida morning after pill decision and abortion generally, which do you think is the biggest political impact looking forward?
Oh,
I
abortion.
think they're related.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they're both politically they're linked because they're both stories about the corruption of the courts and the capture of the courts by the right wing. So politically, they're one story.
I'd say the abortion one, because regardless of what where you are in terms of your Democrat or Republican, every vote that's been taken along those lines so far is gone against I call them the pro-birth, not really the pro-life, because they don't really care about people's lives after these kids are born. But every vote so far that's come down to abortion has gone on against the pro-life folks and for pro-choice.
So why then are the Republicans doubling down on this issue every single time when it is a loser?
I think the answer is pretty simple. The doorway to be nominated by the Republican Party for any office is all the way to the right. You can't get the nomination unless you go down to that far right wing proto-fascist doorway and walk through it. And once you're there, you have a problem making it appeal to the broad population.
Well, and
That's a trade-off as far as I'm concerned.
And part of doing that seems to be squashing the rights of women.
that's the
Hopefully they
issue.
vote that way.
You know, and that's the issue, but that sort of separates the local elections from the national elections.
But that's the answer to your question, Frank. Why do they keep at it? They are captive by their voters, just the way Fox's audience captured Fox News. And if you don't give your faction, your voters, what they want, someone else will come along and offer it, and then you lose your primary.
You know,
So-
and Fox News is not going to be damaged one iota by whatever happens with that lawsuit.
Well,
I think that
$1.6 billion.
I don't think that matters to them.
What if part of the settlement forces them to apologize on the air for a certain number of weeks?
I don't think they'd agree to that.
what do you,
That's if it's a settlement. But I mean, if it's a judgment, if it's part of the judgment, I think one of the reasons that Dominion won't settle is because they're insisting on a public on-the-air apology.
I don't think it'll matter to their audience, even if they do apologize.
Oh, they'll just get some kind of nondescript person to read a cue card that don't expect the big three to be on there talking.
But if that's part of the judgment, it may not be Fox's call. It could be the judgment
what do you think
that Tucker has to get on a certain number of times.
Oh,
and say, I lied to you guys. I lied to you.
But even if it's Tucker, it's going to sound like it's a hostage video. I am completely sorry for misleading you. I mean, he's not going to have any kind of real.
It already sounds like a hostage video.
Yeah, he'll hold up a newspaper to show proof of life. It's going to be so watered down. It's not.
Yeah. You got to think about the long term, though. It's in the moment. Tucker could do a belly flop and nobody would care. But after that, every news organization on the planet will refer to Fox as the convicted organization, the organization convicted of lying or
Yeah, That look at that.
Yeah.
You mean the president, the twice impeached president?
How much- yeah,
The
You know,
as he continues to make more money.
let him. He's got a shrinking minority of the population. The public is so mad about things that matter, like the abortion issue, that they don't need much reason to vote Democrat. If on top of that, Democratic candidates and the media constantly refer to Fox as this aberrant network, then so what if the Republicans all get 30% of the vote in their elections? Who cares?
Well,
The only thing I would say is that a lot of Republican power is engineered for minority dominance, and because where there are state votes like the Supreme Court vote the other week, it's easy for the people riled up over abortion to all vote for the same candidate across the state. But when you have gerrymandered state legislatures, gerrymandered congressional districts, it's not that clear that the majority will always prevail.
Ironic
think
that
there's
minority
a-
dominance doesn't mean the same thing today that it meant 20 years ago.
I think there's a second winning issue along with abortion, which is gun rights. It feels to me as if the majority in favor of completely changing the ability to own weapons is even bigger than the abortion majority. Yet, so far at least, the plans to do anything have been a little bit muted. So if I was the strategist, I would be taking the NRA on directly now with no holds barred, painting them as, the lobby behind killing. And I would not allow them even for a second to justify the use of these automatic weapons and so on. And I don't really sense that that's happening. I think on both abortion and guns, there are two hugely winning issues that will paint the Republicans into a corner of about 30%, not 50%.
True, and just to amplify what you said, what I was saying a minute ago about Fox follows the same logic.
With regard to abortion, that's been politically tested more than the gun issue because people have been so afraid to take on the gun issue until recently. But that's flipping, and I think what we saw in the Tennessee 3 is an example of how the gun issue is becoming more prominence. The Republicans did all of the people opposing them a huge favor by taking 3 obscure state House representatives no one had ever heard of and making them national celebrities, giving them a voice and a platform, and giving them opportunities to appear on everybody else's news shows.
Ridiculously stupid.
They're not going to be unknown for very long. They're gonna be,
It's all that ship has sailed. They know.
Yeah, everybody knows them now.
Yeah, you couldn't name anybody else in that Tennessee state legislator, but you can name those 3 people now.
Well, I saw charts this morning showing their social media followings before and after, and it's huge for all of them. And not only that, they have more social media engagement than practically every other politician in the state.
Even more than Marcia?
So that's not that state. Oh, yes. Well, I don't know. I didn't see her chart.
Wasn't there another shooting today?
Yeah,
there
there was. In a different.
were a couple. Yes.
At some kind of a birthday party for.
Yeah, I think I was in Louisville too.
That was a 16-year-old's birthday party.
God.
we had a shooting here on a barrier island in South Carolina. There were no fatalities. It could have gone real bad, real fast, but it was just down the street.
Wow.
6
But it-
people side.
you know, we live across the bay from Oakland and East Palo Alto as well. And one of my kids hangs out there, and he's been involved in seeing being shot at. So it's more normal. I mean, every single day there are many of these. You just don't hear about them all because sometimes only someone's wounded or only one person's killed. But it is an epidemic.
So that was kind of the backstory about why I asked that question, because there's not a lot of reporting about it today, and it's like the news industry in writ large has normalized this.
Whose mic is making that noise?
I don't know. Is it
No, I don't
me?
think
I have
so.
a new mic.
I said, whoa, because I heard.
Oh,
Somebody brushed their mic against clothing or material of some kind briefly.
Was it my beard?
it's growing so fast.
Yeah, it grew right into the mic. No, I mean the point is that it's that the news industry has normalized it. It's just hey, there was another shooting.
They haven't normalized it. They're living off of it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, they've made it normal in order to live off of it.
Well, I don't agree. They have not normalized it. They are profiting from it.
Well, okay, potato. If you've been in the news business.
Well,
the news.
and I am asking you the question. I disagree with the notion that they've normalized it. It can't be both. If it's going to be, as Keith suggests, a major issue in the presidential campaign or wherever, does that mean it's been normalized? I don't think so.
I think
It's been weaponized.
Weaponized, better word.
You love that word, right, Frank?
Oh yeah, it's my favorite word.
Yeah. I think it can be both, Steve.
Well,
the media has turned into that. I mean, this is an off-center example, but yesterday I read this thing by Nilay Patel in Vox.
Off-center?
I read this thing in Vox by Nilay Patel about it wasn't by Nilay Patel, it was a woman who works for him, that was all about Twitter. And you know, whether I agree with it or disagree with it doesn't really matter. But what matters is it wasn't at all a news story. It was a point of view polemic, desiring an outcome. It was campaigning. It wasn't news. And when I look at any of the news stations, they kind of err on that side, all of them. I know you won't agree that there's a comparison between MSNBC and Fox, and in many ways there isn't, due to the issues, but they're both campaigning, not really informing.
I agree. I think actually there's plenty of ways to look at it as them being very similar. It's similar in a very different way.
I think news is campaign.
Well, in a different way. Would you expand on that?
Well, you got your Fox guys who are on the right, and you got your MSNBC people who are on the left, and both of them have opinions, and both of them report the same stories in different ways.
Yes, one with lies and the other with truth.
There you go. But that's exactly that's exactly.
No, but it comes down to marketing. They are each looking for an audience and looking for strategies to find an audience and let an audience find them.
I'm not sure what the marketing is for.
We should be harder to get. I mean,
no, I mean, every publication has that problem, whether it's a specialized trade publication or a general news publication. You've got, if you're an advertising supported business, you have to collect an audience that you can sell to your advertisers.
You have to monetize it. Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to do everything that a marketer does. You have to define a product. You have to look for a target market, and you have to hone your product to meet the needs of that target market.
Very, very much in keeping with the brand, the Fox marketing department was for a long time going down the road of no spin, and we report, you decide. Which basically made it sound like they were actually a news organization.
I can tell you in tech, I like reading the information. it's just really good reporting and coverage. It sometimes has opinions, but the opinions are very much borne out by the reporting. Vox, I can't read. I can read TechCrunch. I think it's very fairly much reporting. But the more campaigning it is, the less even if I agree with it, it feels like not interesting.
Yeah,
You know,
but again,
I,
it comes down to marketing and product definition. What is the information? Who is it sold to? How is it sold? What's their business model? Then look at Vox. What's their business model? Who's their audience? They're both, sculpted products meant to attract a certain audience to support a certain business model.
to talk like the really old dude who used to do news for a living. I was just interviewed by the Washington Post for a story that they're doing on those of us who covered the invasion of Grenada 40 years ago. And it was, to me, it was great to be interviewed by them and to recollect all of those stories. But it was more about the way that journalism was done back then versus how it's done today. I don't feel that there is that sort of desire to get out there and cover the story, boots on the ground, get involved in it, get your hands dirty, make the phone calls, do the reporting. There certainly are people out there that are doing that, but I don't get the sense that, who's going to write that story about Fox News other than Brian Stelter? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think, Frank, that's why Substack's actually, assuming it's successful, I think it's fairly successful. If you look at somebody like, is it Bill Bishop or Bob Bishop who does Cynicism? And you ask where else are you getting good stuff on China that feels like, somebody who's writing understands what they're talking about and is giving you facts. It's hard to find. I mean, he's super good. And there's other people on Substack like that in their own domains. Even when they're opinionated, like Barry Weiss, because, they kind of lead with who they are, you almost forgive them their opinion. And as long as they're intelligent, you'll read it, even when you disagree with it. That feels like a much better, human-centered place to interact and learn than any of the old media, which feel like battlegrounds.
Well, but I think that I understand what you're saying, but it seems to me that that there back in the day, again, I feel he's so old. Back in the day, there were so many reporters who really understood whatever story that they were covering, and at the same time understood the stories that they weren't covering. That I don't want to say that they were dilettantes and they were, like sharecroppers outstanding in their own field. It just seems to me that there's a whole sensibility in journalism that is gone.
Yeah, but I don't put it on the reporters. I put it on management. You said there were so many reporters. It takes a certain kind of investment to support that kind of an operation.
I'm not sure that I agree with that. There's you mentioned Substack. There's been a dust up about the unmentionable one and Substack. The bots story that Tina was referring to earlier. And the people in the Substack environment and also, just newsletters in general, websites, WordPress, there's a whole bunch of nodes that have sprung up and where the decisions are made by the writer, author, creator. So it's not management. I mean, they are management.
No, I don't think you're.
Let me finish what I'm saying, please.
Okay, but
thanks. It's not a management issue. It's you see, or I have seen in this most recent issue, Substack versus Notes versus whatever Musk is doing. You see the people who have changed their business model from advertising to subscription, employing the same strategies as management at mainstream media.
Back in the day, Ken, there was no profit assigned to, certainly in terms of video media. There was no profit in the beginning. It wasn't until I think at least at ABC News, when Roone Arledge took over the news division and it started to look at itself, not unlike the sports division, and hey, boys, we can make some money doing this, that things started to change.
I
And
agree
so,
with that. But
and if you, go ahead.
you know, I wanted to respond to what Mr. Gillmor said. I think that is a management issue. Keith had the key to it. Substack is a managed company which has decided to hire writers by letting the writers get their own subscription revenues. That's the way you make money. In the old business of a news organization, the money flowed a little differently. As Frank said, for a long time, the networks maintained their news organizations almost as a loss leader, as a public service. It was, they were making enough money from the entertainment and sports divisions that they felt that was a thing that they could do for the brand. That ended. But even in that circumstance, if you ran a news network organization, you hired people and you paid them. Now, what Substack is doing is hiring people to go out and find their own money. But it's the same thing. It's just how the structure is.
I agree. It is the same thing. That was my point, which is that the decisions that are made by so-called new wave journalists, at least in the case of those that are in the Substack environment, is very old school. There's a publication which I'm not a big fan of, but the editor and the editor of The Verge, somebody mentioned, I think Keith mentioned him in the context of something. These are excellent journalists. There's some really good interviews of the Substack management that have been part of this, but there's this sort of what appears to be an inevitable trend toward name calling and vilification based on what are borderline opinion pieces that are somehow confused in this new model, and ascribing to this new model the justification for this change, I think, is overreach.
One of the organizations that I read and I look at and I like what I read on their site, which is Salon, has never made money, not once. I cannot imagine that they will be able to exist much longer by just doing that typical straightforward reporting. They have talk shows, they have opinion shows, but they are primarily just straightforward reporting, and they can't make any money.
But on the other hand, Frank, you look at Politico and Axios.
I love Axios.
They I don't know if they're making money. They seem to be.
Well, they certainly have reporters that they must be paying a lot of money to, because they're doing it right, though. They're also, as part of their marketing of Axios, they're putting their people on the main networks so that they're getting out there as experts in certain areas, and always bringing it back to Axios, which I think is really important. I told Salon that they ought to do that, and they went, yeah, we should do that, and then they never did it.
I think that's similar to who are those guys that made the Liberty videos? They did a really good job of anti-Trump videos, and they're Republicans.
And they're still doing it, yeah.
The Lincoln Project?
The Lincoln
Project.
Yeah.
If you look at the Lincoln Project, it's kind of like a horizontal effort that goes across old media into social media, which is how I think of Axios and Politico as well. Frank's, I think, putting their people onto mainstream media is part of their strategy, and they end up being this horizontal information layer that feeds into everything,
which is a good model. It's a good model.
A good model, and Substack's becoming that. How many times now do you see the name of a person on a show, and their Substack is how they position themselves?
There's a lot more. I would venture to say, and I have never done this study, I'm sure somebody has, probably at Substack, that there are more mentions of Substack on mainstream media now than ever before. Just to talk when talking about some writer and their Substack, I hear that so much.
Thanks to Musk, yeah, that's true.
Musk has done this for Substack, what the Tennessee legislature did to those 3 people they tried to expel.
Good point. The thing about the Twitter versus Substack argument, they're really both going for the same model. If you look at what Musk has announced, it doesn't mean that he's going to be necessarily successful on a point-by-point basis, as we discussed earlier. But this 10,000 word object that they are now essentially providing for $8 a month, this is something that Jack Dorsey was trying to do for 67 years.
Yeah, Musk has borrowed a couple of other features from Substack too, because he's saying that the people who write the 10,000 word articles will be able to charge for them.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you look at the two, ostensibly as a war with each other, and scrape away the marketing on both sides. Oh, this is really, the subscription model is better. Oh, the advertising model. The subscription model backed by advertising is so far the winner, just like in streaming. What does FAST mean, Frank?
Free advertiser supported television.
Okay, now why is that a big deal?
Well, it's free, but it's advertiser supported, which is not subscription. We had this conversation, seems like 2 years ago, about whether or not subscriptions were going to overcome or whether advertiser was going to overcome. And I think exactly what you just said, it's some combination of both. So Apple's doing it, Netflix is doing it, everyone is doing it. They're offering you the new Disco Bros is doing it, or what are they calling that now, Max? Yeah, great branding.
KQED does it here, part of the PBS network, where basically you get this 2-minute thing at the start of every show that says who sponsored it. But the other thing is, you now can't watch the good content unless you donate. So you get this premium. It's not called a subscription, it's called a donation, but it's required to get access to some of the good shows. And my wife just paid $60 to them because there was one show she wanted to watch that she couldn't watch unless she paid.
Well, think about BBC though as a model which is always charged for your TV license, but now you get, as a part of your TV license, you get BBC iPlayer, which gives you this great content even before it's broadcast on BBC on the air. So it's like they were sort of at the forefront of an idea that is now what is becoming the most workable solution in the streaming world.
I think they call it socialism or communism.
I mean, it is a
You have
state
to pay. If you want to buy your TV, that's fine. You've got to pay this, rent back to the BBC.
I can tell you they have I've got strong memories as a kid. They have these, they're called detector vans, and I'm pretty sure they don't work, but they
scare you.
They look good. They look like kind of roof-mounted robot things, and they drive around the streets. I was brought up in a council estate. They used to drive around the streets, and in a council estate, nobody wanted to pay for their license. And they'd knock on your door because you hadn't paid the bill and pretend that this thing had detected a TV in your living room, which of course there was a TV in your living room. Whether it detected or not is another question, but it was like the Gestapo, literally like the Gestapo. And it's state levied, state collected, and then given to the BBC by the state. And most people don't want to pay it, to be honest, poor people, because they can't afford it. It's not cheap anymore. Old people don't want to pay it.
Well, you don't have to if you're over 70 anyway, I think.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, that's 8 of us. The other thing about back when cable was being pirated so often. You don't hear a whole lot about cable being pirated anymore, the way you did back in the, I guess, in the 90s and the early 2000s.
It's the switch from analog to digital.
Yeah. But it was if you pirated cable, they would come after you and they would throw you in jail, but they would certainly fine you.
It's super easy to pirate cable now, Frank. Basically,
If you want to.
you can go on Amazon and buy
All you have
these
to do is just listen to the show before we start streaming, and you'll hear Frank and Keith discussing the latest route-arounds of the VPN problem.
Now, wait a minute.
It's been happening. I mean, I've got it all on tape. So just remember.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
But you can also buy these little boxes that cost like less than $200, and you buy a subscription from a pirating service, and basically this box turns into every channel in the world.
Well, there's actually now the ability to put that software onto a Fire Stick, so you don't even need to have the box.
There you go. Yeah.
I've heard. I don't know this for sure, but I have heard that.
Yeah, asking for a friend, right?
Yeah, a friend asked me to look into it for him, and
I did watch Man United this morning on Sky TV from the UK in my living room here in Palo Alto.
Now is a very good service.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. Dennis, anything you want to talk about?
I'm good. I'm good this week.
Well, you're looking good. Okay.
How's the
What?
painting?
Huh?
How is the painting going?
I'm getting worse. I'm pretty sure.
All right, Dennis, you need to watch Florida Man.
Look,
Trust me.
Oh,
What is that? DeSantis?
this is a self-portrait.
Yeah, you're getting worse.
Yeah.
There's no hair on that portrait.
That's another lesson.
I'd want to meet that Dennis.
Yeah, he looks like an alien. Dennis,
Dennis.
watch Florida Man. You'll like it.
All right.
Is that about DeSantis?
Not at all. Otherwise, you would not like it.
So have we changed our mind about whether Trump's going to be the nominee? How many
No.
people think he's going to be the nominee?
Well, I hope he'll be the nominee.
Yeah,
Well,
that'll be the best thing for the Democrats.
yeah. So how many? Let me see the number. Okay. How many think that he's not going to be the nominee?
Wow, you agree with me?
Yeah.
Since when?
Wow.
That
I have no
Happy-
idea why. I just
Happy wife, happy life.
Steve should be right, but unfortunately, the people who would need to do things for him to be right probably aren't going to do them.
Yeah.
well, I'll just remind you that I said that Musk was going to buy Twitter.
You did.
That's
Actually,
right.
you were
So-
consistent in that
But
point of view.
when you go further, Steve, and predict who will win the nomination.
Ooh.
Oh no, that's why they call it the Gillmor gang, Mark.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be DeSantis unless he pulls off some kind of giant thing between now and election day or primary day. I don't think it'll be him. I think if it's not going to be Trump, it's going to be somebody we haven't seen yet.
Well,
Not
if
going to
it-
be
if
Scott.
If it isn't Biden Trump, you struggle to think of anyone who would have the gravitas on either side to command the level of attention needed to win.
But we've seen in the
Larry
past
Hogan.
that somebody comes out, or could be Chris Christie. We've seen in the past that somebody has come out at near the end of the process. I'm thinking of Biden. I mean of Obama. Near that wasn't the clear front runner early on.
Biden was not the clear front runner.
No, you're absolutely right, and it wasn't until South Carolina. Yeah,
It was a little bit before South Carolina, but Jim, what's his name, basically
I don't know.
made him president. Yeah,
yeah. So
Bernie
I didn't think that was
In all those cases, the one who emerges isn't an unknown. They just weren't. They all had national reputations. They just weren't considered as a front runner for this particular context.
and that early.
The thing to ask is, who is there that has the kind of national reputation that would prevail if they got to the front runner position. If they
Chris
got to the
Christie.
position.
Chris Christie.
What do you mean by prevail? Wait a
I
minute.
think it'll be
What do you
Chris
mean by
Christie.
prevail? Let me just ask the question.
Okay.
But
yes,
What do you
prevail,
mean by prevail?
what I
Prevail
mean-
in the primary?
No, I mean, generate enthusiasm among the electorate, generate, get people to come out and vote for them.
In the primary or in the
The
general
primary
election?
and the general.
Well, I
You
think
know,
two separate things.
the
They
thing
are-
that's
they are
really,
separate,
really
but-
scary, guys, is that the Republicans line up and vote like lemmings. The thing that's scary is that if somebody comes up at the 11th hour that's really almost mainstream, that would be a very tough race to finish for somebody like Biden or any Democrat, because all of a sudden you'd have two relatively equal guys or women or candidates who can command a great big chunk of the electorate.
Only if that so-called mainstream Republican says, I'm not opposed to abortion. As long as abortion is the top issue and guns are close to the top issue, you're going to need a Republican candidate who denounces what the party stands for. Otherwise, they're
only
not gonna win.
Only Trump can go there. I
He
think
won't.
Trump can go there, but I don't.
Yeah,
think
and yeah, he'll lie
He's already
about it.
started to, you know, he's made very strong supportive statements about Social Security and Medicare. In fact, he's attacked DeSantis. It's an interesting battle of commercials from their PACs. The Trump PAC attacked DeSantis for using his fingers to eat pudding, but also for opposing Social Security in some of his congressional votes. And DeSantis just came out with an attack on Trump, saying, well, you know, Trump used to say he was against Social Security, and I'm in favor of it. So you've got this weird situation where the two top contenders for the Republican nomination are both putting out ads, not only attacking each other, but defending Social Security.
I hate Newsom, by the way, Frank. I saw you said in the comments, Christie versus Newsom, but Newsom feels to me like a totally self-interested, arrogant egoist.
Well, tell us what you really think.
What's your
Yeah.
point?
Okay. What's
You
your
mean
point?
JFK, right?
JFK somehow cons me, but Newsom doesn't.
Yeah, well, I agree with that assessment.
You were young.
JFK was funny and Newsom is serious.
Yeah.
We need-
I mean,
But I
JFK
think
was
that,
also.
I think what's her name, the vice president is not looking particularly credible.
No,
Nah, I don't
Agreed.
think she's in the game.
I think though she's come up lately because she is the one who's been writing the gun issue, and she's the one who's been writing the abortion issue, and she's got a lot to overcome in terms of her previous lack of presence. But her most recent appearances have been very well received.
She'll
she's
still
got-
be the.
she's got
She'll
a
still be the.
personality- She has a personality defect, which is she sounds too unnuanced. You know, like a
She-
lawyer does, like a litigator. She's not.
She'll still be
nuanced.
the vice president. She'll still be the vice president. It's not like, you know, Trump's not going to go after Pence because Pence running against him, but she'll still be in that job,
Yeah,
and she'll be one heartbeat away.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, assuming
He's
that
not gonna-
Biden wins.
Well,
If
you have
Biden
to
runs,
assume a
I
role.
suspect he'll win.
Yeah.
Who's gonna oppose him in the primary?
RFK Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Primary, or we're,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of things can happen.
He isn't anywhere near the brand.
How does it work when there's a sitting president in the first term for there to become primaries? Is that in the hands of the president, or is it in the hands of somebody stepping up and say, I'm going to compete with him?
No,
That's
I
it.
mean, there are primaries, regardless of what term it is.
Okay.
They can be impacted by a powerful incumbent who can basically say, you know, we're not going to be doing anything this week, but there's no law against it.
No.
I mean, look at Johnson. Johnson basically turned 1968 into a complete, you know what, because he realized that he wasn't going to be able to get out of the war, and he quit.
But is
on
it normal
March
for
12th or something?
Is it normal for the incumbent's party to say we're not putting in, no one's standing against him or her?
In some
Yeah.
years that happens, but in most years, people have exploratory committees, make noises about running, and some actually run. And the history is, in most cases where there is an active primary against a sitting president, that president will lose his second term election.
And by the way, there used to be a time when things actually happened at conventions.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, they got rid of that problem.
I actually do remember those days, because my first convention was in 72, I think, and it was a barn burner, and everyone after that was a barn burner until around the 2000s, when things started to change.
So you would be worried about Biden's ability to do what would now be 6 years from now. I mean, you would worry about that. And if you were really
As long as he
about
takes Trump's diet strategy, he'll live forever.
Yeah, I mean, think about Ronald Reagan and what exactly happened in the last year of his presidency, which was his wife running the country. Along with her
Astrologer.
Well,
her medium.
That happened before, though. Woody Wilson's second wife, did that too. So-
Woody, you knew him as Woody.
You are close.
Woody, I didn't like Woody. Believe me.
Yeah.
He was
All right.
unlikable.
because the only Woody I know.
What's
By the way, I am related to Zachary Taylor, by the way.
Well, is that good?
Really?
No, not necessarily, but I am. I have presidential blood flowing through the
Good old Zach.
That's great.
Zachary
Well,
Taylor.
it could have been worse. You could have been related to Buchanan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, not one of the greats,
Good old
but
Pat Buchanan?
And how do you know this, Frank? Is this through a family tree research?
yeah. My
you're in trouble,
my mother's parents were Taylors.
Oh, did you go to 23andU? Because
No. We
I put
knew
my
this.
DNA in there. So
We knew this back then. I mean, this was part of the conversation at the dinner table in West Virginia, in the house that was pinged by a bunch of Civil War bullets. So
was Zach Taylor the one that his grandson is still alive? It's like one of these presidents from the mid 1800s.
Wasn't he in Power Station, I think?
No, he played with the Rolling Stones.
It's like this president had a kid when he was like in his late 60s, and then his kid had a kid when they were in their late 60s or 70s. So they have a grandchild that from a president from 1820s.
So then, if that's true, then I have a long lost relative I have not met. So there you go.
All right. Once around the table and we're out of here. I won't say. All right. Keith.
Oh my goodness. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Lotus Notes.
No, it's called Substack Notes.
Oh yeah, Substack Notes.
Wow, throwback to Lotus Notes.
What about it, Keith?
There's a huge misunderstanding about what it is. I don't think it is at all a competitor to Twitter. I just think it's a really good innovation in the Substack ecosystem. I've used it a couple of times just to test what happens, and I've gotten maybe 10 extra subscribers that was the week every time I do a note that includes a reference to somebody else.
You're absolutely right. Same thing happened to me. I did it once and gained like 15 subscribers. It was crazy.
Yeah, I agree with Keith on that. Notes is a wonderful promotional tool for Substack, but at the margins, going back to what Steve said, Twitter is trying to turn into Substack. So at the margins, they will overlap and compete. But to start with, they're not trying to do everything that Twitter is doing.
I like how when you agree with me, you say Steve, and when you don't, you say Mr. Gillmor.
Well, I have a tell. I have a
Yeah,
tell.
like he's not saying sir.
And I'm not crying. Sir. Tough guys. These were tough guys, and they were crying.
I want to know, like in 3 months' time,
as they slam the door in his face.
in 3 months' time, I want you guys to say how many subscribers you get for every Substack note you put out, because I'm guessing it's gonna be resorting back to the norm of whatever you usually get on something like a Twitter or a LinkedIn.
I don't know.
You hit a plateau no matter what.
It's like the new thing of the moment.
Yeah,
It'll resort to the norm eventually.
No, I think I disagree. I think there's we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. There's a big audience out there.
Sir.
Yeah, I mean, there's interest because it's launch week, but I think it's growing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to fade away.
Remember when Clubhouse was all the rage?
Yes, I do.
No, I don't.
What is that?
So you trying to make a point there? I mean, what's your point?
No, I never try to.
Are you calling it a day over on Substack?
No, it's still not a day over, but it ain't gonna last forever.
Hasn't jumped the shark yet.
In the immortal words of some blues singer, the thrill will be gone at some point.
That would be the amazing BB team. Thank you. That would be
After the thrill is gone. After
Right.
the thrill is gone.
BB said it best.
They had
I saw him do that live at York University in 1969.
Wow. He was skinny then.
He wasn't.
He was skinny?
No, he was.
He
there
played
wasn't-
Lucille.
Never-
He played
never.
Lucille. That was the best Lucille I've ever heard.
It's the only Lucille.
Lucille, doesn't he always play Lucille? Isn't that his?
Yeah, that's his thing.
That's his axe.
Is he still alive?
No.
No.
Oh, so he's not playing it now.
No.
You
I wonder
know,
who.
Eric Clapton thing not so long ago. Sure is not still alive.
No, he did the Eric Clapton. I think he died right after that. That was the one with the two of them in the Cadillac convertible. Yeah.
Okay, so right now our subscriptions are pretty much doubled since Notes was released.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember a dude.
As a matter of fact, that guy you were talking about, Bill Bishop, Cynicism, he's a subscriber.
Yeah, he subscribed to mine as well. Actually, he's obviously.
Well,
don't
you
know.
never heard of us, and now he's never heard of two of us.
Exactly.
Hey, I remember when Barack Obama followed me on Twitter back in 2008.
Whoa.
Woody Allen and I got into a conversation on Notes this morning.
Uh-oh, you're in trouble.
You mean the Woodman?
Exactly.
I ain't calling him the Woodman.
How do you mean, on Notes or
On Notes. On Notes. Go and check it out. He said he put this thing saying, "Hey Notes, what's up?" So I replied to him with a link to that was the week saying, "It's all here. Just read it. You'll understand everything."
That was the Woody bot.
And that was the conversation. Did
And
he
Chris
reply?
Best was in the thread as well. Chris Best was in the
That
same
was not just a
thread.
conversation. That was bonding.
That was bonding, yeah. That was me
That was flirting, I think.
letting Woody know that
No,
I'm with him.
Ah,
no,
Okay.
I'm not with Woody.
Yeah. No. Yeah. no.
just lost the Roland Farrell vote.
Okay, Dennis, last thoughts.
Last thoughts. I have not tried using Substack in any meaningful way yet. I need to put that on my to-do list.
You'd be good. You would.
You know, they need a little bit more consolidation of features before it's going to be interesting to people that don't care about social media.
Yes, new glasses?
No,
Really?
yeah.
He's
They look
dyed
good,
his eyebrows. He's
They look
dyed his
good.
eyebrows.
He got a
so it
haircut.
Looks like new glasses. He's got new
Yeah,
eyebrows.
clearly.
Huh.
I like this look. It's a good look. The
Yeah, it's
glasses, the
very,
beard,
I could have sworn. that-
it's Vonnegut. Did you see that? Somebody mentioned Vonnegut's affinity for the Beatles.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was really fascinating. He said that in Cat's Cradle and two other novels, he mentions them directly. And he liked John Lennon on a personal basis.
Got to be a good
How it
person.
goes.
Anyone, if you do the John Lennon, Paul McCartney vote, anyone who votes McCartney, you got to wonder.
So on the Beatles note, a letter arrived at Gene Krupa's house addressed to the world's best drummer. He sends it to Louis Bellson, who refuses to open it. It goes around to all the great drummers until it reaches Buddy Rich, who says, "This is for me." He opens it and the letter begins, "Dear Ringo."
So true. I once sat behind Buddy Rich, like just off the riser, because I thought he was amazing. Because he was on the Johnny Carson show, so I thought anybody who reached that height was amazing. He was totally amazing. But the Paul McCartney reference. Oh, you've met Paul McCartney, right?
I have.
Yeah.
I interviewed him.
And what was the context?
What was the context?
Beatle.
I think he had something to do with this new band called Wings.
Ah,
And of course, all I could talk about with him was the Beatles, and he didn't want to talk about the Beatles.
I'm sure he enjoyed that. Interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was great.
So,
huh?
yeah. So you've got this new band, Wings. Tell me what it was like to work with John Lennon.
He's come around though in his old age. He loves talking about the Beatles now.
He does. He does a lot.
There's
Why
a
wouldn't
lesson.
he?
There's a lesson there for all startups, which is you never get to escape what you first say you are. You never escape it. So be careful to make sure that what you first say you are is who you want to be.
That's why I don't mind saying I'm really old.
Well, I feel compelled to put a Prince story in here since
Please do.
Yeah.
Yes.
he's been hijacked by the Beatles and all that.
Oh, hijacked. That's a
That's a
You
good
know,
song.
you don't have to
That's a
say
good-
hijacked.
Let him tell his Prince story.
Let him.
I am
How could I
going
stop it?
at the end of the month. I am going to Paisley Park and doing the VIP tour.
Cool.
Oh,
Send
Yeah.
pictures. Can you
Well,
take pictures
I
inside?
don't know. I don't know if you'll be able to take pictures in there, but
Maybe not video.
wow.
I know you're not doing video in there. No, it's not happening. But I'm
Cool.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Well, it's a very rarefied league that the Beatles and Prince and
Well.
Dylan are in.
Few others. Few
Yeah.
others.
Okay, Tina, you have any thoughts?
Nope. Never. I don't know.
Nicola.
Great to see you guys and no, but I'm excited to be here.
Okay, that's Michael.
I'm all thought out.
By the way, the Fox Dominion trial starts tomorrow.
Michael, didn't you mean to say I'm all out thought?
Ooh,
I don't think I'm out thought. I'm just thought out.
it's very dyslexic of you.
Brent, did I
Yes.
I was
ask?
out on Prince. I can't top Prince.
Oh, but you started that. I'm asking you whether you have any last thoughts.
Prince.
Ooh.
Period.
So how's your network going? PPN.
Well, it's going pretty good, I guess. We're waiting to launch some new shows, hopefully. All dependent on the talent, of course. The talent you try to bring on in these new shows and new networks, they're so temperamental. I mean, they
Talent? Temperamental?
the talent is so temperamental. I mean,
That's what makes it so good, the Gillmor gang, because we're all so balanced and
Thinking about anybody in particular, right?
I'm not naming names, I'm just saying the town.
Well, they're the network that has Bob as what was the catchphrase that you changed?
Well, yeah, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day,
Stutz.
Bob Stutz, a miracle. I tried to emulate him the other day. I just turned the camera on and talked to it for about an hour.
It was pretty good.
It was
All right.
it was
I liked
good,
it.
but
Will we ever
but
see
Stutz
that?
is better.
You
Stutz
watched
is,
it?
Did you publish it? Or is it-
Let someone else see
Yeah,
these things. that
it's
we
gonna
were
be
doing.
it's going to be on our new Substack, which is private only, and you have to be a lifetime member.
Oh, wow. And your last name has to be Gillmor
Or gang.
So far, yeah. So we're going to be traveling back
The
to
left coast.
California to celebrate the impending arrival of our second granddaughter.
Yeah.
nice.
So that's what's going on for
You'll
us.
all be informed when the big day is here.
Send video.
Send video.
I don't know
I'll
about
send you some video of my 1.5-year-old granddaughter. She'll knock your socks off. She's so cute.
Yeah,
be a big sis.
replacing me as soon as
Smartest-
possible on the
smartest
show.
one in the family by far.
Okay, guys. Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And Frank.
Pelosi clap.
You say something at the end. No, don't turn it off.
Oh,
He has a word that he uses.
we're waiting for Frank's word.
Yeah,
Me?
yeah,
Ciao
I
for
know.
now.
there it is.
Ciao for now.
Oh, it's
Or,
chow mein.
Oh, chow mein lane brain.
Say chow